Okay, so tonight we're going to look at the meaning of slope. A lot of our problems, we're going to have to identify the slope and then tell exactly what it means. So the first thing we want to do is look at this graph, and then we can see that we're talking about the number of hours worked versus money earned. So obviously we're talking about how much money we're going to earn over time. Okay, so the second thing I want to do to find slope is I want to find 2 points. So I can find a point here, and I can find a point here. Okay, so we're given a graph. We can remember that it is rise over run. Okay, so it's going to rise and run. Okay, so remember our slope is your change in y over your change in x. Okay, so here the rise is 1, 2, but pay attention because these are going by 10. So my rise here is 10 between here and here, and the run is going by ones. So my run is 1. So my slope here is going to be 10, and the y is dollars, so that's going to be $10 over 1, which is my x, and that's hours earned. So 1 hour. Okay, so now we want to start applying what's on those axes to the number. So I rose $10 and I ran 1 hour. Okay, so my explanation down here is my little sentence I would put would be I earn $10 every hour, I work. Okay, so that's your explanation. You want to put your slope into a sentence for meaning. Okay, so let's look at another example. In this one, if we look here, we're talking about apples and oranges. It's not labeled, so I'm assuming these are going by 1. So we're talking about a ratio of the apples to the number of oranges. Okay, so like before, I'm going to find 2 points on the line, so I can pick a point here and I can pick a point here, and so we're going to do our rise and our run. So these are all going by 1 since it's not labeled, so I rise 2 and I run 1. So I'm going to go over to my slope here. My slope is 2 to 1. So remember, 2 is the y, so that's oranges. So we're going to say we've got 2 oranges, and then the 1 is the x-axis, and that's 1 apple. Okay, so then for my explanation down here, hello, I'll just write it out. I can say for every, oh boy, it's changing stuff, 2 oranges, there is 1 apple. Okay, so if we look at this, for every 2 oranges, I have 1 apple. So hopefully you would know that if I had 4 oranges, I would then have 2 apples, right? Apples to oranges. So tomorrow we're going to spend some time working on writing these out in stations. And then we're going to work on some IXL, and you're going to do some like the examples we just did, but then you're also going to do some written examples like this. This is R2, and so we'll be doing this in class tomorrow. So when I'm working on these types of problems, I'm going to read it. A corporate team event will cost $70 if it has 7 attendees. In contrast, if the event has 8 attendees, it will cost $80. What is the cost per attendee? Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'll put it in a coordinate. So I have $70 for 7 attendees, right? And then my next equation, I have $80 for 8 attendees. And it really doesn't matter whether you put the 7 first or the 70 second, as long as you put the 8 first and the 80 second, the second one. But I always like to label these so I remember what they're for, so that's attendees. So in this one, we have to remember our equation for slope. y2 over y1, x2 minus x1. So this is my x1, y1, x2, y2. And so I'm basically just going to plug those in. So I have subtract my y's, so that becomes 8 minus 7. And then I'm going to subtract my x's, so that's 80 minus 70. So that's going to give me $1, $2, $10, right? Now this is asking what is the cost per attendee. So I actually probably should have wrote that the other way, because this is the attendee, and then this is the cost. So I'm going to go ahead and flip that around. So $10 for every one attendee. And it's fine, because I could have reordered it that way. So then I would just put my answer as 10 here. And that's right, okay? So let's look at one more example, and then we'll be done here. If I look at this type of example, I have the table shows the number of quizzes Annika has ever taken in high school, and it depends on the number of weeks she's attended this quarter. So we have, they actually tell you here, X is your number of weeks and Y is your quizzes. So we could say this is X1, X2, and then we could say this is Y1, Y2, because they gave us that as X and Y's. So we want to know how many quizzes does she take per week, okay? So we want quizzes per week, right? So we want quizzes per week. So if we look at our quizzes here, we're going to do 12 minus 8, because that's Y2 minus Y1, over 3 minus 2, which is going to give you 4 over 1. So she takes 4 quizzes every week. And then we would just put in 4 here. Okay, so we're going to work on that tomorrow. So all you need to do is come in with your notes from these last 2 problems that we did, and then this problem and the other problem right here. And then we'll spend some time working on meeting a slope tomorrow. And I hope you have a great evening. Good night. Oops, I hope. It's blocking.